Have you ever sat down on your couch for just 5 minutes to check a notification, only to look up an hour later and wonder where the time went? You feel a little drained, a little anxious, and you can't even remember half of what you just saw. For years, we blamed ourselves. We called it a lack of willpower. But on Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, a jury in Los Angeles officially changed that story. They didn't blame the users, they blamed the machine. For the first time in history, a court has ruled that the parent companies of Instagram and YouTube were negligent in the very way they designed their apps. They didn't just find them careless, they found they acted with malice and fraud. And this isn't just a headline, it is the big tobacco moment for the digital age. The slow fade of our attention and our self worth isn't just happening to us, it's being manufactured. Stay with me. Today, we look at the verdict that finally holds the architects accountable. Welcome to Passion Struck. Hi, I'm your host, John R. Miles, and on the show, we decipher the secrets, tips, and guidance of the world's most inspiring people and turn their wisdom into practical advice for you and those around you. Our mission is to help you unlock the power of intentionality so that you can become the best version of yourself. If you're new to the show, I offer advice and answer listener questions on Fridays. We have long-form interviews the rest of the week with guests ranging from astronauts to authors, CEOs, creators, innovators, scientists, military leaders, visionaries, and athletes. Now, let's go out there and become Passion Struck. I want to start today by taking you back to a conversation we had a few weeks ago in episode 732, The Mattering Mirror. In that episode, I asked you a question that I want you to sit with again right now. If you looked into a mirror that didn't show your face, but showed your true value, what would you see? I argued then that for many of us, that reflection has been replaced by a digital scorecard. We've stopped looking for our worth inside our own souls and started looking for it in the likes, the views, and the comments. We've traded our internal locus of knowing, that quiet, steady compass that tells us we are enough, for a high-speed external metric. Well, this week in that Los Angeles courtroom, we saw exactly how that mirror is being systematically shattered. The lead plaintiff, a young woman named Kaylee, took the stand. Her lawyers actually unfurled a 35-foot-long banner across the courtroom, covered in hundreds of photos she had posted on Instagram starting when she was just 9 years old. Kaylee looked at that banner and told the jury that almost all of those photos had a cosmetic filter on them. When her attorney asked why she couldn't just stop, her testimony was heartbreaking. She said, "I can't. I just can't be without it." She described spending up to 16 hours a day on Instagram, telling the jury, "I felt like if I wasn't on it, I was going to miss out on something important." Think about that. A 9-year-old girl feeling like her natural face wasn't worthy of being seen. This is exactly what psychologist Gordon Flett calls anti-mattering. It's the constant high-speed signal from an algorithm that says you are an error to be corrected. This is how we manufacture duck syndrome at an industrial scale, training our children to glide across a filtered surface while they paddle in a panic underneath, convinced their real selves are inadequate. But how do these companies keep us and our children staring into these shattered mirrors for hours at a time? This is where the architecture of addiction comes in. Imagine you're at a restaurant and the waiter brings you a bowl of soup. You're hungry, so you start eating. But every time you get close to the bottom, the bowl silently refills itself from a hidden reservoir underneath the table. You never see the bottom. You never get the stop signal your brain needs to feel satisfied. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a famous study from Cornell University. They found that people with bottomless bowls ate 73% more than those with regular bowls, and they didn't even feel more full. They just kept eating because the visual cue of finished was erased. In the trial, experts testified that features like infinite scroll and autoplay act like digital drugs. They aren't just features, they are a bottomless bowl. The jury saw internal documents where YouTube employees literally used the term viewer addiction as a design goal. They found that Meta and YouTube didn't just ignore the risks, they acted with quote unquote malice, oppression, and fraud by knowingly deploying these features to hit a target of 46 minutes of daily engagement per user. They weren't just building a platform, they were engineering a gateway to body dysmorphic disorder. Kaylee's own therapist testified that her sense of self was so tied to the platforms that they could make or break her mood in a matter of seconds. This is where we connect back to last week's conversation in episode 744, the cost of staying who you've been. In that episode, I talked about the safe bet, the idea that keeping things exactly as they are is the responsible choice. But we uncovered a hard truth. Staying put is often the most expensive risk you can take. I called this the performance trap. The performance trap is the mental and emotional bandwidth that you spend maintaining a version of yourself that the world and the algorithm expects to see. It's the exhausting effort polishing your armor while the person inside is slowly disappearing. Well, this week's verdict showed us that for the tech giants, your stagnation is their strategy. When a jury finds a company negligent for addictive design, what they're really saying is that the system was built to keep you in a state of permanent performance. The algorithm doesn't want you to grow, to change, or to look away. It wants you to be what I call a competent ghost, someone who is highly functional at scrolling, liking, and consuming, but completely absent from their own evolution. We think it's safe to spend 46 minutes unwinding on our phones, but those minutes are the performance tax. It's time you aren't investing in your own locus of knowing, your internal compass. Instead, you are paying a tax in fragments of your vitality to a system that is rigged to keep you exactly where you are. And as I said last week, the biggest risk isn't the change ahead, it's the slow erosion of staying exactly where you are. And today, the legal system just handed us the bill. This is how the quiet erosion of your life happens. It's the invisible leakage of your confidence, your focus, and your sense of worth. As Dr. Anna Lembke, the Stanford psychiatrist and our guest from episode 625, testified during this trial, digital products are addictive by design. She explained to the jury that our brains are wired for a natural balance. Think of it like a level. When you're constantly tied toward the high of a notification or a filtered image, your brain tries to protect itself by pushing back with equal force to stay level. Eventually, your brain gets stuck in a dopamine deficit state. This is the moment when you aren't scrolling for joy anymore. You're scrolling just to avoid the pain of being alone with your own thoughts. You aren't looking for a win. You're just trying to get back to a baseline of okay. The jury in Los Angeles didn't just see a young woman struggle. They saw the internal documents that prove this quiet erosion was a calculated part of the business model. While the $375 million ruling in New Mexico the day before punished the industry for failing to stop exploitation, this Los Angeles verdict goes even deeper. It attacks the engine itself. The jury found that these companies acted with malice. They ruled that the bottomless bowl isn't just a feature, it's a defective and dangerous design. This is a historic declaration. It's the first time the legal system has officially stripped away the safe bet of the tech industry, exposing that their engagement targets are being met by rewiring the brains of an entire generation. But here is the hard truth. No amount of legal damages will fix a shattered mirror or stop the leak in your vitality. Only you can do that. To live beyond the script, you have to recognize that the most expensive risk you can take is staying exactly where you are, paying a performance tax to a machine that was built to make sure that you never feel like you are enough. So we've looked at the bottomless bowl of the algorithm. the shattered mirror of the filters, and the performance tax we pay in silence. The jury has found the architects negligent, but the question remains, how do you apply this to your life today? If we're going to live beyond the script, we have to move from being users who are used to being stewards who choose. Here are 3 practical ways to reclaim your marrow. First, reinstall the stop signal. The algorithm removed the bottom of the bowl to keep you consuming, so you have to put it back. Do not rely on your willpower. It's being outgunned by a billion-dollar supercomputer. Use a physical stop sign instead. Set a kitchen timer for 15 minutes before you open an app, or use the screen time locks on your phone. When that timer goes off, that is your locus of knowing, reminding you that you have had enough. You are the pilot again. Second, audit your mirror time. If the shattered mirror of the algorithm tells you that you are an error to be corrected, you need to find a steady reflection. For every 10 minutes you spend looking at a digital screen, spend 1 minute looking at something unfiltered. Look at a tree, look at a loved one, or look at yourself in a real mirror without a camera in between. Remind your brain what a real, beautiful, unoptimized human being really looks like. This breaks the anti-mattering loop and grounds you back in reality. Third, trade a metric for a moment. The system wants you to perform for a score. To rebel, you must perform an act that has no digital footprint. Today, perform one micro-mattering act. Send a text to a friend that just says, I was thinking about that thing you said last week, and it really stuck with me. Don't post about it. Don't take a screenshot. Just let it be a moment of pure connection. This is how you stop paying the performance tax and start investing in true significance. The verdict is in. The negligence is official. But as we've discussed today, a legal check from $1 trillion company won't fix a shattered mirror. It won't stop the slow fade of your vitality, and it won't give you back the hours lost to a bottomless bowl, designed to keep you from ever feeling enough. To live beyond the script, you have to stop being a competent ghost in an algorithm's engagement target. You have to reclaim your locus of knowing, that internal compass that tells you your worth is an unconditional fact, not a digital score. The most powerful act of rebellion that you can take against a system that wants to value engineer you out of the room is to choose meaning over metrics. That is exactly why I'm so excited for our next conversation. It's the perfect continuation of our journey beyond the script, moving from the hidden performance tax these platforms extract from our lives to the far greater purpose dividend that comes when we finally reclaim our time, our attention, and our sense of worth. Next, on Passion Struck, I'm joined for the 3rd time by one of the world's leading voices on happiness and human flourishing, social scientist, Harvard professor, and #1 New York Times bestselling author, Arthur Brooks. We sit down to discuss his brand new book, The Meaning of Your Life, Finding Purpose in an Age of Emptiness, releasing on the same day this episode will go live. While today's episode exposed how addictive design fragments our focus and shatters our inner mirror, Arthur takes us one crucial step further. He shows us what actually makes a life feel deeply meaningful in the first place. This is more than a great conversation. It's the powerful next chapter, shifting from the fractured reflection of the algorithm to the steady, intentional mirror of a life lived on purpose. I can't wait for you to hear it.
Interesting to point out is when people get very far down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, it's because they're trying to answer the question, why do things happen the way they do, which is a cry for meaning. Anybody who has a meaning crisis is going to be prone to conspiracy theories, for example, and there are much better ways to help them, like engaging them in modern science or religion, or in my case, both. I'm a Christian believer who happens to be a scientist, actually, is how we actually do that. The second is purpose. And you find that more and more young people are struggling to answer the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? They feel like they're going in circles and nobody ever helps to explain what the goals and the direction of their life can be. And then the last is significance. Why does my life matter?
Before you go, I have one mission for you. Do not let the bottomless bowl win today. Start the ripple by going to passtheripple.com. Take 60 seconds to mark one act of microkindness on our global map. Perform an act of mattering that has no metric, no likes, and no scorecard. Second, Order the movement. Head to youmatterluma.com. Every copy of You Matter Luma is a signal flare that we are prioritizing the intrinsic worth of the next generation over the engagement targets of a corporation. Until next time, remember, the life you experience is shaped not only by what happens to you, but by the lens through which you interpret it. I'm John Miles, and you've been Passion Struck.